this is Aulisio here. I'll be teaching you about the fundamentals of making comic books. So for this next project, I like us to draw a short 3 to 4 panel comic strip, the kind that you would see in newspapers like this Garfield. So I had like to have a pretty simple formula, and you'll kind of pick this up that there is this formula played out in a ton of different comic strips. So the first step is you want to have some sort of setup for your comic, and also to help maybe read a little bit of the setting as well. Again, Garfield's super simple. He doesn't have pretty much any background going on, but we do understand, we could see that John is sitting here at a table drinking coffee. So they're indoors somewhere, drinking coffee. That's the setting. But we want to have up the setup. So the setup for this first panel here is his buddy comes along and says, "Hey, John, what do you think of my new outfit?" And then the second panel, I like to call it the action panel. So we set up the story. The first, or the gag of the joke, is he asks how his outfit is. The next one is the action, and is Garfield rubbing against this guy's legs, shedding all his hair on it. And then we have a reaction. So the action is shedding his hair, and now we have the reaction where the guy says, "Does Garfield always shed like that?" And then he says, "Only on white disco suits." So we like to start the action right in the middle, setting up the joke to the reaction of he gets his pants shedded on, and then they make a joke making fun of his disco outfit. We could go and look at the same formula within this next comic here. We have 2 panels here. Garfield has no food in his dish, but Odie does have a bunch of food in his dish, and he's munching. He's looking at him, suspiciously. So this is the first panel where we have the setup. They're both eating. Odie has food. Garfield doesn't. We have an action. This action is an actual punt where Garfield kicks Odie, throws him in the distance, and then the reaction to him kicking him is him eating Odie's food, and he says, "Gotta keep my strength up." So it's, again, super simple formulas of setup, action, and reaction. We're going to go ahead and draw this comic the same idea of what we did with the thumbnail process of before, but with this, I like us to just kind of write it out in a short little list. Working on a little thumbnail of your comic strip, again, I like to just do 1, 2, 3. We have the setup, we have the action, we have the reaction. Again, we don't have to rule out any of the thumbnail ideas. So I just quickly drew out the squares real quick, set up, action, reaction. I like to just write a little note at the bottom of it here. So let's say, I have for my setup, it's a cat and a snake in a jungle. So I just loosely write out what's happening in the panel below it. And then again, you can just kind of loosely thumbnail. Maybe there's like a cat there, and we have, or the snake there, and then we have a cat here. They're in the jungle. Some silhouettes of bushes and stuff. The action, well, maybe it's about the storm, and we have like a big boom going on of the snake and the cat are both freaking out because they're outside. They hear a big boom going on. So snake and cat are afraid of lightning. So I know that's what's going to happen in the next panel. And then the reaction to that is I'm going to have the snake. He's just being silly to the cat. Again, they're both sitting here very loosely. I already know what the background is going to look like from the first one, so I don't even have to draw as much of that there. And then the snake asks, "Did you fart?" Because he heard the lightning and he thought it was the cat that farted. Pretty simple. Setup, action, reaction, easy thumbnail, but we're going to write a script with this thumbnail before we move on to the final. So I went ahead, drew this out in pencil very lightly, and then went ahead and got my inks, went over it, and then drew out this whole strip. To rule this stuff out, using my ruler, I usually would butt up the ruler on the edge of the paper so we know it has a completely straight line on either way. For this comic strip, I chose to draw my panels at about 3 1/4 by 3 inches. Or you could just do a perfect square 3 by 3 if you want. But the way to set it up, you set up the ruler, butt up against the edge of the paper, draw a straight line across top and bottom, and then that's when you could physically you would have 2 lines there, measure out 3 inches, 3 inches, 3 inches for each one. I like to set up all the lines with my ruler in pencil, but then when I actually go ahead and ink them, I don't use a ruler to ink it, so we have a more of a natural looking line for surrounding the panels. And then here's just one more example of the easy setup, action, reaction formula that I use. I had a setup, it's a penguin, he's in a sauna, he has hot rocks here. He says, oh, look at those rocks. And he's a penguin. They like to collect rocks to put around their penguin nests. So he goes ahead, he reaches to grab one of the rocks and he burns himself. And he says, wow, those rocks got defense. So pretty simple setup. Penguin in a sauna. The action is he sees some hot rocks. He doesn't realize they're hot. He tries to grab them. And then the reaction is he gets burned and he says, wow, those rocks got defense. So again, simple setup, action, reaction for a 3 or 4 panel comic strip that you would most likely see in newspapers.